wanted to talk a little bit about golf swings, namely drivers versus irons. I think I saw on Reddit the other day, or maybe it was Instagram somewhere, somebody complaining about when their irons are good, their driver sucks. They never figure out both at the same time. And it got me thinking, and we talked about this a little bit. Is it because there are two different swings for your iron and your driver? Or is it one swing and you're just overemphasizing the wrong thing and you get one right when you get the other one wrong?
Well, before I have a take, I have a question to ask you.
Yes.
Would you consider a Porsche 911 and a Subaru Outback to be the same because they have four wheels and they're both all-wheel drive? Because that's kind of how I see the difference between a driver and an iron swing.
Wait, which one is the Subaru?
Oh, Subaru's the iron swing.
Okay. Yeah, they're both cars. So in the sense of, they get you from point A to point B, maybe one a little faster and a little flashier, but they're both cars. But no, they are not the same car.
And I think that's usually like where you have to start with the argument. Obviously, the sequencing is similar. The idea of what you're trying to achieve to hit the ball a certain distance is the same. But outside of that, I think there are so many differences. And I'm one of those people where when my driver is on, my iron game, maybe not so much, and vice versa. And so I am very much in the school that they are not the same swing. And I actually have my favorite golfer to back me up on that as well.
Let me guess. It's Rory.
Yes.
So then that brings up a good question for you when you're playing. And when you're practicing, do you feel like you're actually practicing the swings differently, right? Like, is it different feels, different mechanics even, beyond just, because obviously the setup is very different, just in and of itself, right? So let's take that off the table, but everything else feels different to you? And what is that?
My swing thought for both swings is very different. And if I have the same swing thought for my driver that I do for the irons, I have a tendency to hit low snap hooks. And so here's a few things that I think of swing thought wise for my irons. I have to feel very much my club face is at my spine angle when it is shaft parallel. With my driver, I can't do that. I actually have to feel it's a little bit more upright. Like the club face is pointing straight up and down. And obviously I am standing up a little taller as well, right? And so just right off the bat, like your setup is different. So it's a different swing. With my irons, I feel like it's a little bit more upright for me to hit a good shot. I try not to lay it off as much. With my driver, I still don't lay it off a lot, but it still has to be, I still feel like because my irons are so upright that my driver is a little bit more laid off at the top of my backswing. So again, like we're getting to two very different feels at the top of my backswing. And then obviously on the downswing as well, on iron, I am trying to accelerate down into the ground and I'm having gravity help me. With the driver, I'm trying to get my max speed on its way up after it's hit its low point. And so again, very different swing thoughts for me on how to hit the ball properly. And if I don't have that swing thought, I put a lot of backspin on my drives.
Right. That's very interesting. I totally hear where you're coming from. And I would agree, especially from a setup perspective and some of the technical aspects that you talked about, right? In terms of like how upright, how laid off, your face angle. Agree with where you should be. I'm of the school of thought, though, that most of that comes from your setup change. And that mechanically, if your setup is different enough, right? And your core movements are the same, it's all the same swing.
But your core, I guess right there, the core movements can't be the same for me because with an iron swing, your body is very much layered on top of each other. Your spine is just straight down with your hips. On a driver, you have spine tilt. And so right off the bat from there, I feel like you can't have the same swing because in one, you have a lot more side bend. And on another one, you're a lot more straight up and down. And so right off the bat, that core aspect of the setup changes your swing dynamic is my argument.
It changes how everything moves. but it doesn't necessarily have to change how you fire your muscles, right? In relation to your setup. So I'll give you that, right? It's not like your muscles move exactly the same. It's not the same exact movements every single time. But in terms of how everything moves, how you do your takeaway, your arm movement, your core movement, your hip movement, it should all be relatively same to the way that you set up. And for me, and I don't know, I'm not as good as you, so maybe I'm wrong here, but ultimately it's my setup is very different on my driver, but it's the same feeling on the takeaway, right? My left arm to chest feel is very similar at the top of my backswing, right? I'm not changing. And honestly, like, I don't even know how laid off or upright I am. I don't really feel a lot of it just because where I'm focusing. And then, from a firing perspective, it all fires the same. It's you fire your hips, you're coming down, you're bringing your club down behind you, you're shallowing it a little bit. And the release point to me actually feels the same. The difference is because on the driver, the ball is so left for me and I'm a righty and, up on a tee, it's after the natural low point as I'm coming up, that's just happens to be where the ball is. And, and for me, like from a feeling wise, I'm doing the same thing with the iron. It's just that the ball is catching the club on the downward path still. Right. So like I still feel like I'm releasing it pretty similarly. It's just where does the ball find the face or face find the ball, I should say.
For me, right off the bat from takeaway, it's a different feel because your hands are further away from your body. The shaft is longer. I actually have to remind myself to think of a much wider arc for my driver because it is so far. And so because of that, I feel like with my irons, everything is more compact. And, we talk about this drill that I do, right? Where we learned from Alex, where I put my thumb on my sternum and make sure that my fingers are always on my bicep. And I do that for my driver and my iron. So you would think it's the same swing, but because your hand location and your shaft location are different, it actually causes me to feel very differently from the takeaway. And also at the top of my backswing with my irons, I am not fully rotating. I'm usually trying to stop a little past 3/4. I would say I'm rotated about 85%. But with a driver, I go 100%. My issue for a while was that I actually over-rotated with my driver. And if I shorten my backswing with my driver, I have timing issues. And so I have to rotate the full rotation. So even from that aspect, it gets to a different point. And yes, you are firing and trying to synchronize in a way that is similar, but the feel is two completely different swings for me.
That's really, because I think of it more like I don't know if you ever read, is it Ben Hogan, Fundamentals of Golf, I think was his book, one of his books. And the other one was like Power Golf. I read Power Golf, so maybe this isn't the best reference source. I don't know if I read the other one, but his whole thing is like there's one swing. It's just where you put the ball changes. And so I, maybe going back to your Porsche versus Subaru analogy, maybe the question is, well, what is like the swing, right? Like what is the definition of the swing here? Because again, I'm agreeing with a lot of your points. Like, do I feel wider on my driver? Yes. But I think for me, that comes from, again, it's like a setup thing, right? I set up with my hands further, like you said, right? And obviously the club is longer, so it does make a wider arc. My hands don't feel wider for me. And, at the top of my backswing, for example, I think everything I turn about 80% just because I'm old and not as flexible as I used to be. But at some point, yes, my driver came around like 110%, and I would actually see my driver head on the wrong side in my peripheral vision. Much like John Daly, right? Like, it's like you see the club head drop on your lead side. But I don't feel any difference outside of that, right? Like it's like, okay, and then at that point you just swing the ball, or swing the club, find the ball. So I think maybe we're saying the same thing, but for me it's a lot more. Once I change all of my setup, I don't pay attention to everything else. It's just like, it's a similar, like I need to turn, I need a certain amount of turn, a certain amount of arm movement, and then certain on the downswing, again, sequence and release. And I'm just kind of trusting that as that's happening, everything is finding the ball appropriately, finding the ball in the low point, right? Because that's the big thing for me. It's where my sternum, my spine tilt, right? And the line, if you go straight down my sternum, where that is. Like for me, that's relatively where my low point is going to be. And I think for most golfers, unless you're like really manipulating with your arms, right? So I just need to make sure that that's pointing correctly and that I'm not going to find the low point too low on my driver and hit the ground, but that it is going to be before I get to the ball so that, again, if I keep my head steady, it's going to be on the upswing. And, again, mechanically, I don't feel a difference, but it might be a feel versus real thing.
So I think whenever I hear this debate, it really gets down to who is more detailed and who is more high level, because I'm not going to change my swing from a 2-plane swing with my iron to a 1-plane swing for my driver. And so in that sense, you can argue, well, you have a very similar swing because the swing philosophy as a whole is the same. That also includes sequencing, right? But when it gets more and more detailed, I feel there is a stark difference. If there was an alien that came to this world and you put a Subaru Outback and a 911 right next to each other, they might be like, well, they both serve the same function of getting its driver from one place to the other, right? They both have 4 wheels. They both go on the road. And so I feel like it's very similar in that aspect where if it's high level, yes, I could argue it's the same swing. But when it comes to even the feel and where I focus on, it's so different for me. And Rory is kind of the same way, because Rory is known to say that for his driver, he definitely leads with the leg drive. Like that's his focus. Hitting the ball with his right hip is more important. And his upper body just kind of is more natural. Whereas with the irons, you feel like you're covering the ball with the chest and the sternum stays more on top of the ball to ensure that you're getting that descending blow and better compression. Even the way that the ball hits, right? Like with an iron, you're trying to trap it and compress it. With the driver, I feel more like you've already like it's on the release that you're hitting the ball and you're not really trapping it. And so that in itself, I could understand where people are saying, well, it's the same swing and it's just where the ball hits. But for me personally, I have to think of it as there are 2 different objectives to how to hit the ball. And in order for me to do that, I have to have 2 different swing thoughts. Therefore, it's 2 different swings.
I get that. I do. Because, I think there's a swing thoughts versus swing mechanics versus feels. There's a lot of layers to this. And I can appreciate that definitely the feel and the thought needs to be different for some people. And it should, right? Just to your point, just because maybe the objective is a little bit different. I think where I'm stuck is why an Outback? Like you couldn't even give me a Subaru like BR, God, I don't know, even like
a WRX.
Yeah, like or like an Audi or something like why a Subaru Outback versus the 911? Joking aside, I was just like,
because for me, it's the utility is different. With an iron, I would say that yes, distance is important, but accuracy takes a slight edge over distance. If you can get it accurate. With the driver, like it's the distance has a slight edge over accuracy. I mean, the best golfers on the tour hit a little over 50 fairways, 50% fairways, right? Yeah. And so I think that utility is different and therefore you need 2 different swings.
Okay. I'll take that. I was just like, God, you're like really downplaying the iron swing with the Outback. Like, I don't know, give me an R1T then. Like, a lot more utility, but still kind of cool. Nothing wrong with Outbacks for our listeners that also happen to be Outback drivers out there.
No, they're great. And I picked them because Outbacks are known for all their lines to be all-wheel drive. And same thing with Porsches. They're all all-wheel drive. And so that's why I picked those 2 brands.
Very, very in-depth and astute analogy that you're making.
I will say, though, the greatest golfer of all time, he does believe in a one-swing theory. However, he has come out I think midway through his career and said that the release pattern and the way that your body moves might be a little bit different with the driver. Tiger specifically has said that with the release, he feels like he has to release a lot more with his driver. Whereas with the irons, he's trapping it. And then after the ball makes contact, he's releasing it. And so he's definitely felt like there's a significantly different lateral movement that you make. And I guess, again, if you talk about the details of that, then for me, I'm like, well, then Tiger, that's two different swings. If the lateral movement is different and where you load the ball is different, then they are different swings because they have two different objectives.
Yeah. I think I agree with your point around if you go down to that level of detail, then yes, you can't really make the argument that they're the same swing. But going back to the original problem statement of, for a lot of people, their drivers are good and their irons suffer, or vice versa. I would say there's a little bit of caution in trying to make your feels so different that your swings are also then fundamentally just different, right? And what I mean by that is, I've known a lot of people as they're starting golf, more often than not, they'll start with their irons. And when they go to pick up the driver for the first time, they don't really know what they're doing. And they hear from, maybe some friends, well-meaning friends, or like maybe the local pro or guy at the range that like, oh, it's this whole different thing. And I think that confuses a lot of people into thinking that they have to like reinvent another swing from scratch versus, more often than not, I feel like you can fix a lot of those problems with just making sure that they have really good setup and then following the same core mechanics of what they're doing with the iron, right? Are there those nuances and differences? Yes, I absolutely concede that, right? Like even with what you're saying with Tiger, not that I'm comparing myself to Tiger, but often I do feel like I have to release my driver earlier than I'm feeling with my irons. And that's really just in relation to contact, right? Like, is it the same if we were to go like frame by frame? It's probably similar, but it's like the feeling of it is I'm releasing it a lot earlier versus the irons. But yeah, those are the things that I think for the average person just starting out, or the beginner just starting out, I should say, don't try to like reinvent a completely different swing for the driver. It's, yes, your feels will be different, but start with just like a solid different setup and then follow the same things that you've already known how to do with your iron swing. That's wrong. I don't know if you would agree with that advice.
I'm thinking. But as I'm thinking, the one thing that also I think is fundamentally different is that with a driver, if you see the best drivers in the world, their head actually drifts a little further back than it was at address. Yeah. With your irons, you stay either centered or you actually come a little forward. Yeah. And so that alone for me also tells me that it's two different swings. Because one, you are trying to keep that center further back, so you're hitting it in a ascending blow. Whereas the other, you're moving your head forward so that your club's continuing to descend into the ball. Yeah. So when you're changing your body that much, for me, like I could understand that you're not recreating a brand new swing to hit a drive, but I still contend that it's two different swings. And for me, maybe it's bad advice, but when I tell my beginner friends, I do tell them that overall your swing shouldn't change, but I do tell them it's two different swings. Mm-hmm. Because I feel with one, you are much more sweepy. And for me, like you have to teach a beginner that you're sweeping it and hitting it on its way up. And with the other one, you're literally trying to dig it into the ground. So it allows me to explain it as two swings. And that is, I think, understood the easiest for a beginner than for you to say it's just the same swing and you just move your ball position and you put a spine tilt on it. That actually, I've never found anyone being able to hit a driver with that instruction.
That's what I do.
Well, you do it pretty well.
No, but so there is a lot of nuance there that I fully admit there's a lot of nuance, right? So for example, I really like that you called out, your head position relative to the ball and how that moves in an iron swing versus a driver swing. Because this is one that I actually struggled with a lot. And I remember there was one range session a few years ago where, you were helping me with my driver setup and my head position because I was just struggling with it. One of the thoughts that's helped me and transition, and again, like not that I'm a good ball striker on either by any stretch of the imagination, especially not these days, is if I take my setup, right? And so if I'm going to try to do this with my hands. If the framing of the setup on the irons is like this, right? Where this is my lead side, right? And then on the driver, it's like this, right? And so your head position is kind of where my hands are meeting, right? For me, there's a swing thought of if I stack my weight inside my lead leg and make sure this line is kind of just like always, what's the word? I keep the integrity of that line, right? That lets me kind of be over the ball and swing through it and shift my weight forward because of how I set up on the irons versus on my driver because there's a bigger angle of that line for me and the way that I set up with the spine tilt. If I stack within my lead leg, right, it forces me to actually keep my head back. Even though I'm shifting weight, I'm doing all of that, but I'm feeling this like pressure and feel of like keeping that integrity of almost like my head to the inside of my lead foot, like that relation constant. And that helps me to keep my head back on my driver, right? So I guess that's where I'm coming from, where there's like certain feels that I have found go back and forth, right? Like it's just the way that it gets applied in that swing looks very different in application. But for me, it like feels like I'm doing the same thing almost.
And if it looks different in application, it's two different swings.
But if I feel like I'm doing the same thing, then it's the same swing.
I think that's the very interesting part about us is that you definitely, I think, feel things more, and I'm a lot more mechanical in my swing. And so even in our swing thoughts, your swing thoughts are very feel based, and my swing thoughts are like hitting certain points.
Yeah.
But I guess, I mean, it definitely is like whenever I hear this debate, it always comes down to, are you really comparing like apples to apples? Right. And a lot of times it's not. And that's the beauty of golf, right? It's a different swing for every individual. You approach it differently. And so, like one person, like I said, an alien will come down and say the Outback and the 911 is the same thing. And so you're just an alien.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I've been accused of worse. So
now the best golfer in the world right now, Scotty Scheffler, he says that it's one swing. For him, the swing thought has to be the same. He has the same weird foot kick motion follow through for both driver and irons. And so, I think it really depends on the golfer, and it's comes down to what works for you. Like, does thinking of it as two swings help you? And if it does, that's great. But if you like to just think of it as one swing and you're able to make that work, that works just as well, right? So there's really no right or wrong answer per se. The right answer is what works for you.
Yeah. And I think I'm just adding on to that, you hit the nail on the head with like the feel versus the mechanics, right? Scotty, not the most mechanically like perfect Tiger, renowned for his feels, right? Like he feels things that probably the only other person in the world that feels them is Charlie Woods, right? Because he learned directly from his dad. And so maybe it's a little bit more like the feels might translate one-to-one for them, but mechanically they are actually doing very different things. So it comes down to, are you thinking of it from the way that you feel it or from the way that you're actually executing, in which case I 100% agree with you. It's going to depend person by person, and the ultimate outcome of what it looks like for the alien might come back and be like, you know what? Like, yes, they did the same thing, but they were very different. So who knows?
Mm-hmm. Well, whether it's your first time here or you're a regular listener, thanks for joining us and welcome to the Off TRAQ podcast, where we talk all things golf from an amateur point of view. I'm Charles. That's Roy. We're two golf-obsessed tech guys, and we're currently working on our own golf startup. Make sure to click subscribe or follow on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast so you don't miss an episode. It will also help us out a lot. And also follow us on our socials at TRAQ Golf on Instagram and TikTok.
All right. So it is that time of the year again. the PGA Show in January, where all of our favorite gadgets and gizmos and technology are rolled out for display. We couldn't be there this year, but we wanted to talk about some of the things that we're excited about. So let's start with putting. One of the things that really caught my eye, and there's two companies that, not surprisingly, came out with a very similar product all in the same year, which is quote unquote smart golf balls for putting. Right. So supposedly they feel like real golf balls, but they have a little micro sensor inside, and it's they called it a launch monitor for putts. And it gives you things like actual launch angle, skid, roll, side spin, all the things that you would see from a putter. And the one price that I found was it's $120 for 3 balls. Yep. Plus $120 per year, so $10 a month subscription. But while you have an active subscription, if your balls run out of battery, you send them in and you get a free replacement. So obviously you can't charge these, but each of the balls supposedly has around like 10,000 putts or something in it.
Yeah.
What is your take?
And then the other one you can charge, right? Like I think it's called chipped. You can charge that one.
That's right.
But they charge it's like $700, $800.
Yeah, it's something ridiculous. Yeah.
So the concept of putting chips inside a golf ball is not new at all. It's been around since actually when I started my very first startup, which was early 2010s. There were golf balls even then. And every few years we see other golf balls come out and none of them are in business today. And I feel like the issue with a lot of them was that it was just the price point was too high and you really couldn't use it for irons or drivers because of the abuse that they took. And also, if you're paying $200 for a ball and you lose one, then you're really screwed, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's interesting that they're just focusing on putts, but I don't know. It's also a challenge for them, I feel, from a business standpoint, because a lot of these launch monitors are now including putting and they're giving very similar type of data. So it's definitely interesting. And the data that they capture should be, in my opinion, should be more accurate than some of the lower price pointed launch monitors. But yeah, when I first saw it, my reaction was like, I've seen this before.
Right. And you bring up a really good point, because in that small size, they're putting obviously a bunch of accelerometers, maybe some gyroscopes.
Yep.
Right. And if you do that, you can get all of the movement of the ball. But at that speed, putting speed, there's really nothing. And you work specifically in vision-based technology, right? AI. And, I have an AI background. Like, there's really not anything that a camera shouldn't be able to tell you.
Yeah. Especially the cameras that some of these launch monitors are using, which is extremely high frame rate. Yeah, a camera should be able to do it, but there are certain limitations with cameras. For example, if you want to use it outdoors and then the sun is hitting it in a certain angle, the camera might not capture everything. And so you might need a special ball. But being able to find a ball with dots around it, kind of like what you have with the Rapsodo, right?
Right.
Like that would be able to capture a lot of it through the camera. So yeah, I will say like no launch monitor right now is, from what I know, using balls like that for putting. And a lot of them are, I think, meant for indoor use. So I guess there is that small segment of if you want to take it outdoors on a very sunny day and that's where you practice putting and you want this data, maybe that's where they want to kind of fit in.
Right. Yeah. When I first saw them, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And, as somebody who I could be a little streaky with my putting, I was like, my question for all of these is, would I buy this? I think to the point that you made, if the price point was a lot lower, I think I would try them out. But I already pay so many then I don't even know how many subscriptions I have, including for golf stuff. So I don't want to pay another subscription for 3 balls that my toddler is going to throw in some crevice of the house and I'm not going to find again for 5 years. That's one. And even if it's a rechargeable one, to your point, $700. I mean, that's a Rapsodo MLM2, right? Like that's insane. And just for putting. So the more I thought about it, I was like, this is really cool conceptually, but yeah, even for people like us who are way more likely to buy stuff, I don't know that I would buy this one.
Yeah. And I think the biggest challenge for golfers, and I was watching actually an interview with one of the brands, I forgot which one, but they were like, oh, so you know what you're doing wrong. And they were like, yes. And they're like, what do you do with it? They're like, oh, well, now you can talk to your instructor about how to like fix those. And so it doesn't really help other than just knowing data. And we know when we work in tech that just providing data alone doesn't equal results. You need someone to then take that data and execute it into a plan that changes the behavior in some way. And that might be their plan down the line. But at this current version of these balls, it is very much we provide you with the data and then you figure out what to do with it.
Yeah. Really interesting theoretically, not so much in execution so far.
So far. Everyone that's tried it, because the issue with previous balls that had chips on it was that they were very hard and they had to put very hard casing because of the abuse that the balls took. But a lot of people that have tried it online have said that they just felt like a normal ball. So I think that's one area where they perhaps improved, especially the feel of the ball to make sure that it feels like a premium ball.
Yeah, I just, and not to beat a dead horse, I feel like this one, I don't know if this is thematic for everything, but there seemed to be a lot of like small 1-point solutions, meaning it's meant to address a very, very specific or particular part of the golf game and not widely usable for many other things, right? So, you can argue that putting is a big enough category, but to your point, it's not correcting you. It doesn't look at you as a person as you're putting, which obviously your setup, your stroke, a lot of those have implications. So this feels a little too specific of a tool versus it being something that, can be applied and carried in your bag and used on a more regular basis.
Yeah. And I know this doesn't have to do with putting, but I wanted to talk about one other product that did kind of stand out. And it was a product called G-Grip. And it basically has a bunch of sensors laid within the grip itself. And right now, it has to be part of their grip. So you can't just put it into any grip that you want. I don't know if you recall, but when I first started golf, there was a product called Zep. And it was basically like a dongle that you put on your glove. And I had it too. And as I was looking through the data, I was like, this looks very similar to just the Zep data. Obviously, it's probably a lot more accurate, especially with over a decade of technological innovations. However, there was same issue. It required a lot of individual interpretation. So the guy that was doing the demo was like, oh, you could see that you are putting a lot of hand pressure, especially with your right hand for a right-handed golfer at the top of your backswing. And that usually when there's a lot of pressure means that you're going to get ready to cast. And so the person that was recording was like, oh, so will you tell me that? And they're like, well, not right now. Like you kind of have to just know that if there's a lot of pressure that most people will cast. And so you'll work with your instructor to kind of figure that out. So very similarly, a lot of data, but not much help on what to do with the data.
Yeah. I saw that one. The only difference was that it was giving you grip pressure.
Right.
It was the first time I had seen grip pressure anywhere. I was like, oh, that's not that interesting. Like, I'm not conscious about my grip pressure at any point in my swing other than at address, like right before takeaway. Do I need to be? I don't know, maybe, but is it going to fix everything else? I doubt it. So I looked at that one and I was like, yeah, that feels like another, like, dude, you're just trying to solve one very specific thing, and not more widely applicable.
Yeah.
Staying on putting, I don't know if you saw this one. It was Putt View on your phone, right? So Putt View, the company that makes the practice mats, and it gives you like contours and draws everything out from. I think they're using projectors and other sensors to be able to draw out like the path that you should take, your start line, etc. Now they have, using the LiDAR on the iPhone, you scan where your ball is, you're scanning the whole time, and it basically draws out all of the contours, tells you what your start line should be, and then draws the putt for you. Obviously illegal in play. And also, if people do start using this, it will slow up the speed of golf so much that I really, really hope people don't do it. But interesting concept for practice. Would you use something like this?
I think for practice, yeah. I would definitely use it, because one of the things that I practice when putting is I want to look for the straightaway on any hole or green. And so if I had something like this and I know this is the straightaway, it again takes out any of the guesswork that I have to do. So I could see it definitely being used for practice purposes. And if it's a slow round, I might even just whip it out and just be like, hey, like, did I read it right? Like after the putt, right? Obviously,
Right.
I wouldn't
Right.
use it before for scoring purposes, but
Right.
yeah, afterwards I'd be like, did I read that right? Like, what is going on here? So I think it could be definitely a fun tool. And it sounds like, from what I've heard, that they're going to be offering this for free, which I think is their way of gathering green data from all the courses.
Oh, I did not hear that, but that is interesting. Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe I will try this one out. That is very interesting. I wonder what they want to do with that though.
I mean,
Like,
they could start selling that data to like back to all the other GPS based companies, right? Because right now, I think a lot of theirs is based on like topography, like maps that they have to understand what the green like slopes actually look like. So if they have this, it could be another data revenue stream for them.
Interesting. So draw out what each hole's topography looks like, sell that back to the GPS companies, and then maybe the GPS companies can put in hole topography, because not all the courses have their own putting green topography. That could be interesting. Okay, moving on from putting and topography measurement, saw a lot of, let's call them quote unquote budget personal monitors come out this year.
Yes.
This was really interesting just because I have a budget personal monitor. So let's kind of go through some of the ones that we're seeing. What stood out for you? What didn't? And I'm going to ask the question: if you didn't own your launch monitor because you have let's call it a not budget launch monitor, which one of these would you get, or which one of these would you be interested in trying?
I think the one that stood out for me was the one from Garmin. Garmin has what did they call it?
The Garmin G
something 82. I liked it because it had like other utilities where you could also use it as like a GPS device other than your phone or your watch, because we both have a Garmin watch. So I kind of like that. And it felt like, number one, the design was also really cool. Like you just have to put a ball behind it. There's like a little socket with a ball, and that's your ideal angle that the launch monitor needs to sit on. It gets putting data. The big thing for me was at, what was it, $599 was their price point?
Yeah.
How accurate is the data? But if it's relatively there and I could also use it for GPS, that's something that I was most interested in.
Yeah. That one was one of the more interesting ones, especially because it is the launch monitor, and obviously Garmin has their history in GPS data. They're coming out with the feature, which is basically like a virtual caddy. It knows your stock shots within range. It knows the course conditions for the day, and it knows now where on the course you are. So it's going to recommend you a club. I don't know that I would use that, but that's a really interesting thought. It's a really interesting concept for them to go for. And I don't know that I would use it because I don't play just stock shots, right? And I know you don't either, right? You tend to get a little bit more creative. You club up, don't take full swings, whatever. So if they have the ability to say like, oh, I'm going to hit a 3-iron punch and it measures your stock 3-iron punch, or like, you know, a halfway back pitching wedge, like, sure, then it's interesting, because that's what a caddy is calculating, not just you have 150, you know, perfectly level, no wind, it's a 9-iron for you, right? Like that I don't think I would use.
Which one stood out for you because you own the Rapsodo too, the GLM2, so or MLM2. So I was curious which one you are most interested in.
Yeah, so the two that stood out to me were the Blue Tees and the Square Golf Omni. So the Blue Tees is a little bigger. It's rectangular. You could argue, you know, Blue Tees, and we've talked about them in the past with the rangefinder. They are more of that like budget technology line, not in a bad way. They just make products that are a little bit more affordable and maybe take out some of the fringe functionality that you see in some of the higher end equipment. The size, I was more interested in the Omni. But the reason they were interesting to me is because they had displays. Right? So my biggest gripe with the MLM2 Pro, which I have, is that you have to use your phone or your iPad to actually see any of the numbers. And that's not that big of a deal, because when do you not have your phone on you? It's just that sometimes the syncing is slow, or, you know, I don't want necessarily to to do like a full analysis every time. I just want to see, am I hitting a certain number, right? So it's kind of a hassle to set all of it up and get the Bluetooth and get the wireless and get it all synced. And they were notorious for like the first year, their firmware was just terrible. So it like wouldn't catch the Wi-Fi. It wouldn't update, so they had a lot of issues at launch. So for it to just be embedded in the device, that was really interesting. So not necessarily in the market for a new monitor, especially because I paid for the lifetime membership for the MLM2 Pro.
Yeah.
But if I were, I would probably look at one of those two.
Rapsodo came out with some news during the demo day that they have a brand new software where you can now connect your MLM Pro to a computer, right?
Yes.
And it has really good graphics. Yeah.
Yeah, so trying to get into, it was like Foresight and some of the ones that you connect direct to PC, which I think is interesting. And they have now the CLM, which is the ceiling mounted
monitor. I saw that.
Right, so they're trying to get into like the simulator indoor game as well, which makes sense. It's a natural progression, right? You already created all of that technology. You have all of the software behind the scenes. It's like now it's just a different application. But I'm not gonna get a ceiling monitor anytime soon, or my wife might actually divorce me. So that one I didn't really pay a lot of attention to.
I was curious how much it would be though, because the price, they haven't released the price yet. And Rapsodo definitely comes in more of that budget-friendly type of segment. Yeah. And so the ceiling monitors are expensive. They range anywhere from about $12,000 to like $40,000, depending on which one you get. Yeah. And so I was really curious where Rapsodo is going to come in price point wise.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the Rapsodo, the Garmin, the Blue Tees, and I think the Square Golf Omni, although I don't remember their price off the top of my head, if they even announced it, they're all in that $600-700 range. Right, so they're very similar from a cost of entry perspective. Their ceiling, that would be interesting if they also do the same thing, because I think when the MLM2 Pro came out and the original MLM, the smaller the unit, and I had that unit too. When that came out, most personal quote unquote devices were like 1,500 minimum, if not like ranging up to 15,000. So they really did start shifting the market towards the more budget personal one. So I'm curious if they're going to do the same thing for the ceiling side.
Yeah, and with all of them, I'm really curious to just see the actual testing to see how accurate the data is, because if the data is not accurate, or how much you're willing to be okay with, like how far it's off.
I want to get my hands on some of these and do some side-by-side testing against yours, against even the MLM, because we did side-by-side testing when I got my MLM2 Pro, right? And we noticed that everything up until maybe the 3-wood and the driver was within plus or minus 1 to 3 yards. Yeah. Either way, which for $700, I was like, I'm totally fine with plus or minus 1 to 3 yards. And then on the driver, it's like started being like 10 yards or something like that. And I was like, all right, whatever. Who cares? I'm just trying to hit it as far as I can anyway.
Yeah.
The other one that stood out, the Shot Scope LM1. I don't know if you saw that one.
Is that the $200 one?
That's the $200 one.
Yeah.
Right. So now they're making like a really budget friendly launch monitor that's in a different, 200 is still, it's not cheap, but it is in a different category altogether than all of the other ones that we've seen so far.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that for me, it wasn't the budget friendly ones that got my attention, but it was actually the one from Square Golf. It's $1,600. But what they were saying is that their launch monitor has accurate data comparable to something that costs 3 times its price. And at 3 times its price, it is the GC3. And so that's kind of what they were saying. I know Square Golf, though, historically, people love the idea of them, but hate their customer service. I've heard if there's any issues, like you can't get a hold of anyone. So I've always heard bad things about their customer service, but that was the one that I gravitated towards. Because if you can sell me the types of data accuracy that I have today with my GC3, but it only costs $1,600, that's piqued my interest. Because for me, I think the budget ones, I'm expecting there to be a drop in data accuracy. And because of that, it's not something that I gravitate towards. Even though I know it's just, 3, maybe 4 yards. For me, I'm like, if I can't be 100% sure, then I don't want that device. So yeah, it's actually the Square Golf, I think the Omni that really I gravitated towards and wanted to find out more about.
Han, if you're listening to this, I'm not going to buy it. But if you see a new launch monitor, I don't know where it came from.
They wanted us to test it.
Yeah, I mean, this is, for research.
Yes.
Would you ever use an LM1, especially considering your note about the cheaper it is, the more questionable the data becomes?
If I am on a second floor of a golf range where I don't know exactly what my yardages look like, and you had it around, sure, like I'll check it out. But I'm not going to take the data as gospel.
That's fair. Okay. Moving on to equipment. So lots of interesting equipment announcements, as there is every year. What were some of the standouts for you?
I think Cobra really is stepping it up this year. So obviously everyone that listens knows that I'm very excited about testing out the Optim driver. And friends that I've talked to, my brother that I've spoken to, they've all said if they had to buy a driver this year, it's the Optim. And Cobra's done this before where they have experimented with 3D printing their golf clubs. And they started off with putters, but they've really enhanced and improved on that iron 3D printing technology. Right now, they use 2,600 layers. And when you watch the process, it kind of looks in the beginning like it's just sugar, but it's little kind of like steel beads that are so fine that are being layered together. And
That's right.
Not so much the iron itself right now am I interested in it, but I think I'm interested in the technology because I am so big on customization for your golf clubs. Eventually, can you get to a point and does it become cost effective enough where you can get irons printed that fit you specifically? And so that's what I'm interested in kind of seeing where this innovation goes. But yeah, like Cobra is kind of taking that lead in innovation for 3D printing irons.
Yeah. And for our users that are a little bit more familiar with maybe the at-home 3D printing, where you have filament ejection and it's kind of melting things. It's not that, right? It's a big vat or box, and it's kind of building it layer by layer from a raw material standpoint, not extruding. But yeah, I agree with you from an interest standpoint. I don't know that I would do it anytime soon, right? Until the technology gets really good, to your point. But what I am really curious about is what it feels like. Just because we know that forged versus cast irons, there's a clear difference because of not only the process, but also the material that you use, the type of steel that you use. Right. So now with the 3D printed steel, I'm very curious, like, what does that feel like? Is it a lot softer? Is it even clickier? Like, where on the spectrum is that? That's kind of the thing that I want to know. I mean, if it's even softer than forged, I don't know how you get softer than forged, but if it is, like, that'd be really interesting to look at.
So what I've heard so far from these the Cobra 3DPs is that it's actually very soft. Yeah, and especially on the center strikes, it feels, especially because they have an MB version right now. Yeah, I've heard that it feels very buttery, and so I'm curious. I'm curious to test it out.
God, okay. So there's a lot of things that we have to test. I mean, we might just need to take a day and go to the golf store.
Yeah.
I don't know that we need to test the next one, but it's definitely worth talking about, which is the Titleist oil can irons.
Oh yeah.
So all of their irons now available in the oil can finish. God, and my irons are 3 years old. I have the Titleist T100s, and I'm just like, who can I sell these to and get these oil can irons? Because they look so good. They look so good.
I know. It's one of those things where if you just had money lying around, like I would absolutely pick one up.
Yeah.
We were talking about this the other day. There's obviously no price point on it yet, but you were estimating it's going to be around $2,000, right?
Yeah, because when they did their black finish, right, their jet black finish, I think is what it was called for the T100s and a few others. I think for a set of 7 clubs, it was 2,000 or like 2,200, somewhere in that range is what I remember, because it was right on the outside of like what I would be willing to pay for a set of irons. And so I was just like, God, no matter how good these look, that's just a little ridiculous. To your point, unless I just had money laying around. So my guess is they're going to come out there because they're pretty consistent with pricing, Titleist.
Mizuno earlier this year came out with the limited edition iceberg iron sets, and they were so pretty.
I wanted that so bad.
they were $2,600.
Yeah.
And so I have a feeling that these are going to be around $2,600, which is at that point, I don't know. And I don't know how does oil can finishes do with play? Because the issue with I love like black finishes in my irons. The mirrors that I played were black, one of them. And the issue with them though is that they do come off very quickly, especially the sole. The soles, it eventually just looks like a satin finish. And so I'm curious how oil cans last in terms of actual use. Do you know?
I think it wears off,
Okay.
and you get a little bit of like that patina, right? So that pattern, the wear pattern. But I have the jet black Vogies. I've played the jet black Vogies since they came out. There's always inevitably wear, right? Especially because it's a finish. It's not like the raw material, and it's always like the day that I get some scratch somewhere, which is usually like the first day that I play it. Like I get so sad because I'm like, oh no, now I have this like blemish on this club and it's not as pretty as it used to be. Yeah. So to be fair, that's probably what would happen with the oil can irons too.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. I like my clubs looking pristine. And I know there are people that are like, well, it tells a story. No, I want my clubs looking brand new. Like the entire time.
Yeah. Like the story it's going to tell is that I suck coming out of the sand, right? Like I don't want that story. Like nobody needs to tell that story.
One other equipment-based product that I am very kind of interested is the Odyssey. Odyssey putters are coming out with an AI dual insert. So Callaway, which owns Odyssey, has been doing this for a while with their drivers. It was AI led and it wasn't a smooth club face. They added little ridges and areas where they knew that amateurs would miss based on data. And now they're doing the same thing with a putter insert. Now, I'm told that these feel super, super soft, so you're not going to love them since you didn't like the white hots. But that is something that is very interesting because most golfers, especially with their putts, don't hit the center of the club face. So by being able to allow a little bit of mishit and get that same feel and the same performance that a center strike would get, I think would be appealing to a lot of golfers.
Yeah, I am in the market for a putter. I'm going to buy a putter this year. I don't know that I am interested enough in this, to your point, just because I've tried Odyssey and they are good. Like objectively, they're really good. For some reason, I just don't love them. But it is interesting that with the whole, AI based miss analysis, I get it. It is very interesting, but I'm going to stay on the low torque, zero torque, train and not worry about face inserts for the time being.
Well, again, it's not going to matter for you, but Odyssey has a lot of zero torque designs that I think look actually really great. Yeah. And on that train of thought, Lab announced, and I knew about it for a while, but officially they've launched the DF3i with the insert. Oh man, I just got this putter. And it is sounding like so far that there is not going to be any form of upgrade program.
Right.
So I am in a situation where I have to decide, are these worth it? Because that is the one thing that I don't love about this putter is the feel off the face. So
yeah. I mean, yours is new enough that I'm sure you can still get a lot of value back.
Yeah. But it's also difficult to find someone with very specific specs that uses arm lock because my putter is very upright. I like my putter to be very upright and for me to actually stand closer to the ball. Yeah. Because as I'm right on top of it, I feel like that's even less of an arc that I am putting into the club. So that's what I love, but I know that specific spec doesn't work for most golfers.
Right. God, it'll be interesting. Again, spend a day at the local golf store and try all of these out on the course. So 2 golf carts actually caught my attention of all things. But for those that use push carts, one was the Click Gear 4.5, which I feel like they haven't really updated their model in a while. Because and
they usually don't.
Yeah, I've had the same version of the Click Gear multiple times because I sold mine or I gave mine away when I moved to my parents, and so that's one. When we first talked about this, you were like, do I need to sell mine and get this?
Yeah.
What was interesting about it for you?
I think it's just a lot of convenience factors.
Yeah.
They said at the demo day that they listened to the golfers, and they really did listen to the Click Gear owners and the complaints that we've had.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's just very little like quality of life improvements,
Mm-hmm.
but they are all things that I wanted. And so because of that, I'm like, man, do I need to get it? So I have the Click Gear 4.0. That's what you have too.
Yeah.
And that came out in 2020. And I
Yep.
got that as soon as it came out. The one thing though I hope that they improved on is the actual strap. I had the Click Gear 3.5 before,
Yep.
and I preferred the strap of the 3.5 over the 4.0. The 4.0 became like this silicone strap, and it doesn't do a great job of staying on.
Yeah. The older one with like the hook that was almost hard to hook sometimes, like that was great. That was so stable. I agree with you. This new one is not so fantastic. But to your point, the quality of life features that they added, especially on like the part where you're pushing, right? Like all of those little things. I was just like, oh, I felt like such a golf nerd in that moment, but I was like, oh, this is really cool. I might need some of these. What was your favorite one?
I mean, this is stupid stuff, but like the cup holder being now like expanding, because I have cups that are so different sizes. And right now with the Click Gear, they kind of sell you two accessories. It's either this tiny one or they sell like a huge one. And so depending on the cup that you're using, like I end up having to just put it in the middle. I'm so, excited. I'm like hitting my microphone, but now, just a simple thing that you could adjust the size of your cup holder. I was like, okay, that's a no-brainer. And then it comes with the phone holder. And they added like a little strip on the side for you to be able to put your glove, which you can put it on your bag too, but it's a lot more convenient, especially if you're pushing, if it's just right there.
Yeah.
And the last thing is I never understood why the Click Gear case opens sideways.
Yeah.
And so when you're standing and pushing from the back, I sometimes like have to like reach over to like open. I'm a lefty and it's on the right side. And so now it just simply flips up and I'm like, no brainer.
Yeah. Genius.
Yeah. But I think the big thing is going to be, what do they do with the strap? Because if the strap is still what it is right now, then I probably wouldn't get it. But if they greatly improve the strap, then it's definitely something where I might have to sell my 4.0.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. I was like weirdly excited about the cup holder because I have both of the cup holder accessories right now for the 4.0.
Yeah.
And sometimes I need to use both because I'll start like the round with a Celsius, which is very small.
Yeah.
And then I want to put my water in it, which is, a giant Awala. So I have to switch out which accessory. That's dumb. The phone slot, weirdly exciting because right now you have to either throw it in the basket or put it in the weird sideways door.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have a little like charging port thing with a separate bag underneath that you could put like batteries and other stuff in there. The thing that I didn't see that I'm also like weirdly specific about is their umbrella holder, because the recent umbrella holder that I have, and I think you have it as well for the 4.0 versus the one that I had on the 3.5 or I don't remember which the other one that I had was. The newer one is worse. It doesn't hold the umbrella as well.
Yeah. It's the same thing. They use the same strap that they use for the main strap, that silicone strap, and it doesn't do a good job of holding the umbrella. I actually bought the one that like rotates. Do you have the one that rotates or do you just have the one that came with the Click Gear? Because the one that came with Click Gear is rigid. Okay. So I bought the one where you can actually adjust like the angle because, if the sun is behind you, if it doesn't adjust, then it still hits the back of your neck. But yeah, the strap is not, I don't love the silicone strap that they've upgraded to. Oh, and one other thing that I forgot is they have the magnet on the side now. So your rangefinder, you can just snap it on the side. Right now, I have to keep it either in the pocket in the front or I have to constantly get it out of my bag. So that's another like quality of life. It's like 4 quality of life improvements.
Yeah. If the straps are better, to your point, if the straps are better, I might give mine to my brother-in-law who's now just getting into golf and then just buy myself a new one. Patrick, if you're listening, you have to come claim it though from this podcast. Yeah, so that one was interesting. So the other golf cart, though, weirdly, and I don't know, I got this one. I'm just gonna say outright, I will never buy this one. But it was interesting. It's a push cart that converts into a motored scooter. So like an electric scooter / push cart. And in the past few years, they've had a lot of these more like personal mobility things, just supposedly trying to make the game of golf faster. And with so many people riding, it's like having two people in a cart just, I think they've studied it. It slows down the game. This one was interesting because it's still also a push cart, right? So like you push it if you want, you roll down, you push down this thing and it turns into a scooter and you're riding it. Or you can do and I always laugh at people who do this, the follow me function, right? Where it's like following your remote and just following you around the golf course. You see a lot of those in California. But I was like, oh, that's actually not a bad idea. You could walk if you want to. You get a little tired, you go for a little scooter ride. I don't know if you saw it or if you would ever use something like that.
How much was it?
I don't remember. Let me see if I could find it.
Okay. Is that the one that was called like TG Caddies?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I would use it, but it comes down to like how foldable is it? And that's the one thing that I noticed with a lot of these carts.
Yeah.
In the past, I would never buy it because it doesn't fold well. You need like a truck. But some of these, there's one that I specifically notated. One, it's from a brand called MGI, and I think it folds neater than our click gear. And so it's like smaller. Obviously, it's heavier, but it's more compact than our click gear. So I was like, ooh, because our click gear is a little bulky, to be honest.
It is. I mean, yeah, it folds up small, but it's like still a big footprint for what it is.
Yeah, this one kind of folded up like very kind of flat. It's only as tall as its wheels. And so I was like, oh, like that's kind of cool.
That's pretty good. Their website does not currently list a price, but the deposit is $500. So,
I mean, but a deposit for the Cybertruck was $500. So,
yeah, so that it doesn't really tell you. But apparently, this also comes with a drone. It automatically takes off, films you, and lands with no piloting. So, one of those automatic drones, and it'll do fairway preview mode for you.
Okay. So like go ahead.
Yeah, it'll do like a flyover and find hazards, slopes, bunkers, contours, and then come back and show you, I guess, on your app. Okay, so this is more than just a scooter. This is interesting. This has got to be minimum $2,000, right? If it's like a $500 deposit for what they're saying it does, I'm assuming it's at least $2,000.
I would think it's more than $2,000.
Yeah. Okay. And then, I mean, other than that, a lot of clothes, a lot of shoes that was featured, a lot of AI, which, you have a background and so do I in AI. And again, I don't know that any of the applications that I saw are necessarily ones that I would trust or work with anytime soon. But, that's a whole separate thing too. Anything else that stood out to you?
No, but like you said, I just heard a lot of apparel brands have leveled up their game for this year's show. And I was joking around. I was like, well, when you sell something for $100 and it only cost them $5 to make, like, yeah, you're going to want to push that product.
Yeah. And I feel like, and we've talked about this, like golf apparel has become way more like socially acceptable to just wear in the office and other things like that. So I could see people making more of a push. The one apparel thing, and this isn't new to the show, but the one apparel thing that I am kind of excited about is Nike Golf bringing back their old branding and their old logo. It's kind of retro. Yeah, the shield.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I kind of like that. It's kind of like a throwback to early when Tiger was with Nike days from way back when. But there was another one that I saw that I was like, that's so weird. It was like an electronic muscle stimulator just for your hands.
Oh yeah.
So you're basically holding onto these like electric currents, and it's supposed to be like recuperation for your hands after a round of golf. And I was like, wow, they sell the wildest things at this show.
I mean, golfers were just suckers for that kind of stuff. Where if it's expensive, we're like, oh, it must work because it's expensive.
Right.
As always, today's episode is brought to you by TRAQ Golf, the training system designed to help you practice like the pros. The TRAQ spray shows you exact strike patterns on turf or grass. It also allows you to do drills just like the pros that you wouldn't dream of doing with alignment sticks. And the blueprint helps you build structure into every session. Together, they take the guesswork out of practice so you can actually improve faster. Find out more at trackgolf.com. That's TRAQ golf.com.
Okay. So this is a weird one because I don't know if it's just me. What is the difference for you between a fun round and a scoring round? And do you even have a difference in the rounds and how you approach them and how you play?
For me, a fun round is when I am scoring well.
So that's it. Your entire objective is to just get a good score.
Yeah, I mean, there are rounds where we're like, let's not keep score because it's a practice round. Aside from that, like, I don't know what a fun round is. Like, it's for me, it really is like when I'm playing well. That's a fun round.
What about vacation golf? Do you vacation golf? And if so, do you treat those still as like you're trying to score your best rounds?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay. So I think for a lot of people, there comes a point where like, yes, I am, obviously every round there's an intent to score, but I also go into at some point, it's like, oh, this is not the day. Like today is not the day that I'm going to score really well. Yeah. Might as well just have fun with the rest of the round. So a lot of times it's like you throw away the scorecard or you stop keeping track, or it's like, you stop putting like as much pressure on yourself. But you never do that. It's like, even if you have like a blow up hole or a series of blow up holes, you're still shooting to score the whole round.
I mean, there are days where I'm like, my swing is broken. It's not going to work. Mm-hmm. And then it's not fun. And then it just becomes, and then it turns into a practice round. So I will no longer keep score, but I'm going to try to figure out what the heck is wrong with my swing. And so I don't care how many balls I'm going to lose. I'm going to try different feels, like different, swing thoughts that might potentially turn the game around. So, yeah, I don't know like how you would turn it like a bad swing day into a fun round. Like, is it just a loss of pressure? Like, it's no longer pressure. I don't care.
Yeah. And I think you brought up a really good point, which is that, maybe some fun rounds are actually not fun rounds, but you're turning the not fun round into just like an enjoyable experience. I have one buddy that I used to play with out in New Jersey, and he would at some point, inevitably in every round, he'd be like, okay, I'm not having fun anymore. Like, let's crack open some beers, right? And then that's like, it doesn't matter if it's 10 o'clock in the morning or, 4 in the afternoon, like the swing lube comes out, he's drinking and, smoking cigarettes and doing whatever. And he's just like genuinely enjoying his time out there. And golf almost becomes like an afterthought to him. Like, he's still playing golf, but like, that's not the point. He's just out to have fun. He just happens to be doing it while golfing now versus golfing and enjoying the round that you're playing, so to speak.
Okay. I don't have fun rounds in that way, but I do have casual rounds.
Okay.
A casual round for me is like early on when I went with my brother and he is learning the game. I am not focused on scoring my best because my mind is not going to be there. My mind is there to help my brother get better, help him enjoy the game more, just catch up with him, especially when I'm visiting Arizona. There is still like a desire for me to like take it seriously, but the focus is not just on me. The focus is on the people around me. And so I guess that makes it a casual round, but I will admit I'm not necessarily always having the most fun on a casual round because the whole goal for me is that competitive side where I want to score my best every single time I go out.
Do you ever, when you're scoring, when you started with a scoring round, so your brother's not there, let's say it's us, do your scoring rounds ever turn into, you already said practice rounds, but do they ever turn into casual rounds, or is it the casual round does not come into the picture at any point?
I think a casual round is a mindset thing before you go into play.
Yeah.
If you, if I went into it with a competitive mindset and I decided to call it a casual round, I feel like that's a cop out.
Like, I cop out all the time.
That was never the intent.
I cop out all the time.
So because of that, I feel like, well, if I didn't achieve my best score, then I better get something else out of it. And for me, it's practice.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So you may not be the typical golfer in that sense, because I have a lot of friends that are like, we're like, let's say we're riding in a car together, and they're keeping score and they're doing whatever. And, I keep score on my watch, so it's like I don't really care what's happening. And I'll look over and they just stopped keeping score like 4 or 5 holes ago. Like there's just nothing written anymore. And it's usually after like, the second blow up hole, or they've lost like 3 or 4 in the woods or you're in a pond or somewhere. And I'm one of them where like there's this weird lack of mental fortitude on the golf course. I can focus anywhere else, but on the golf course, as soon as it's like, oh God, I am not having a good scoring day, I'm like, forget it. I'm just having fun now. There's practice. Yeah, it's whatever. But I'm just here to enjoy the golf. And I don't get mad if I hit a bad shot. I'm not frustrated because the pressure's gone. And I'm just like, it's a nice day to be golfing. Whatever. This might also be why I don't score well, because I just give up. I just give up way too quickly.
I mean, there definitely are days where I give up on the scoring aspect. So, and in that way, there's no pressure for me to like get the max out of it, but I just feel better about myself and the bad score if I'm like, okay, well, I figured at least something out, or I got some sort of feel that I'm going to try taking into the next hole. So I definitely need to use it as some sort of practice. But you're right. Like I'm not, I think, the typical fun golfer, because this as well. Like I rarely drink on the course. I don't smoke. And so like cigars never become a part of my golf thing. I'm out there to golf. Like I'm out there to score well. And that's where I get my enjoyment from. It's very much this, because I played sports like competitively growing up, I miss that competitiveness in life. And so golf has become that avenue for competition. And so that's what I get out of the sport, rather than just being out in nature with deers running around.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I'm somewhere in between, where more often than not, like, cause same, I don't drink on the course unless it's like vacation golf. Vacation golf, all rules go out the window. No like cigars or anything like that either to start. And then you see those guys that are like on the first tee box, they're already like, on their second beer and like, lighting their cigar and whatever. And they're there most of the time. I feel like those guys don't even keep score, right? They're there just for a good time, not for a long time. So it was just interesting to me. It's like, what is the difference for you, if there is any? And it's fascinating that for you, it's like, there's barely a difference. Like golfing is all scoring versus us mere mortals over here. It's like, whatever. I gave up. let's just try not to lose too many more balls for the rest of this round.
Yeah. And also when I drink, I don't score well. Like there's people where I think they loosen up, the pressure is off of them, and then they start scoring really well. Yeah. For me, I feel off balance. Like I'm also a lightweight because I don't drink regularly, but I feel like that allows me not to score well, and therefore it's no longer fun. But I know people, there are a few courses where like on the 6th hole, it's like the 12th hole coming back the other way. And so there's been times where I've run into people I know, and they're already on like their 6th can of beer. They have 2 cigars sticking on the side of and it's 8 a.m. on a weekday. And so, and I could tell they're having fun in their own way. Yeah. But that's not fun for me. And so I think this is the first time where, because I feel like I'm like the newer age golfer, right? Yeah. But I guess this is one aspect where I'm sure a lot of our listeners are like, man, that guy's no fun.
And just for our listeners, for the record, like Charles is fun to golf with. It's just that it is very much like we are there to golf first. It's like the golf is obviously the main thing versus, like we have those buddies where they come to golf and they're there to socialize, right? They're busy chatting and they don't even know what club they're hitting next or anything like that. Yeah. It's definitely not that if you ever golf with us. So I don't know if our listeners would say that's boring.
And I think I'm still like very, very chatty with those people. Yeah. We have conversations outside of golf while we're waiting in the tee box. But yeah, my objective is to score well. No matter who's there, no matter what atmosphere you're trying to create for yourself.
Okay, next time we do like a golf trip, I'm like determined to actually get you to drink in the middle of a round, just to see what happens. All right. Thanks everybody for joining. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow on your favorite podcast platform. And check out our Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube @TRAQ Golf. That's enough getting off track. May your mulligans be many and your 3 putts be few.